Dude, how do you feel?
The DBD community is good at three things: asking for shirtless Felix cosmetics, creating new tier lists every single week, and bitching about balance. Today we're gonna talk about the latter. You see, every 3 months, the whole DBD community gathers on YouTube to create clickbait titles, say that something is OP, or saying that behavior really should fix their game this time. But this month was different. People are complaining about behavior not listening to the community, creating boring killers with bad gameplay, creating boring perks, and all those arguments are valid, but no one is addressing the main issue that DBD has right now, which is, why the hell do we need a new chapter every 3 months to keep us interested? So I, the most recognizable DBD creator of all time, have to come down to earth and speak the truth. You can tell that the game is unhealthy when one bad update makes people question their life decisions. The truth is that long-time players have already done everything they can in this game. I'm one of them. I have already unlocked all the perks, I have unlocked all the killers, I did every single CJ tech possible, and played against Azdara, which is how you know I've technically finished playing Dead by Daylight. So after all the content is consumed, the only thing that's left to do for you is to try and get better at killers or survivors. You can do crazy self-imposed challenges like all perk streaks or just simply win streaks. You can do escape streaks as survivor. But because the game is unbalanced in its nature, it's really hard to tell why you failed or lost a certain game or challenge. Because most of the killers in this game are not extremely insane, there are situations where you can't win even if you are playing perfectly, simply because your killer gatekeeps you. You can be the best dredge player, but if you go against 4 medkits on comms, you're probably gonna lose. Competitive players have already proved that. Even with all the restrictions to survivors, perks and items, mid-tier killers are not able to win games even if they are played flawlessly by the best killers in the entire world. So every time you go and try to do that little win streak you have on Hillbilly, you need to keep in mind that if there's a 4-man good survivor stack with good items, you are losing that game no matter what you do. And you have to explain that to yourself every single time. So how can you feel yourself improving if there are situations where you simply can't win? How can you tell that you are improving as a killer? People don't want to waste time trying to get better at killer or survivor because they know that if the other side brings the strongest shit, they're gonna lose no matter what. And I haven't even mentioned tunneling yet. So what if I told you there's a simple way to make players invested in the game again? Make players want to get better. You've read the title already, you know what I'm gonna talk about. Competitive mode.
But how will competitive mode help? People are just gonna tunnel. It's gonna be boring. And the game is unbalanced, so how can you even compete in an unbalanced game?
Well, the reason the game feels unbalanced is because we are comparing 2 different entities to each other. Killer and survivors are not comparable, they are 2 different entities. Can you imagine? DBD comp players are actually comparing killers to killers and survivors to survivors. No way. So currently how it works is Nurse wins with a 3k and Trapper also wins with a 3k, but you also know that Nurse is better than Trapper, so why are we comparing Nurse and Trapper again? When we should compare Trapper and Trapper? 2 different players should be competing against each other, not 2 different killers concepts. Why do we have that discussion? So a Trapper player is better than the other Trapper player because he gets 1 hook more. And the Nurse player is better than another Nurse player because he gets 100 wins in a row more. That's how the balance works. That's what you should compare. So for us to want to improve and get better than other players, we need a system that will allow us to compare ourselves to the other players of our kind, which means Trapper against Trapper, Nurse against Nurse, and survivors against survivors. Yeah, no shit. The way to implement this system is really simple. Let's say someone is playing Trapper for 30 games in a row. The average hook states per game of that person is their level. And you can compare this level to other players who also play 30 games, not necessarily in a row, but simply 30 games of Trapper. This will lead to an interesting dynamic where players challenge themselves and try to get in the top percentages of the killers players of their kind. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You remember I talked about competitive mode? And why do we need it? Well, the reason why is because if this system was currently implemented in the public matches, people who don't want to play competitively and just try to have fun with simple builds would have to play competitively because they would go against the killers who actually try to win and try to get those hook states to be the better killer than the other players. So another thing that competitive mode achieves is this differentiation, this gap in the mindsets of the players is able to narrow down to one simple concept. Everyone is trying their hardest. So people who actually go and try to play competitive mode would expect killers to also try and play competitive mode. By going to competitive mode, you sign this mental agreement that you agreed to be tunneled, or you agreed people to teabag you. I don't know, is that a thing that helps survivors win? No, it doesn't. So there you have it, competitive mode solves all the problems. All of a sudden, if you implement the floating win condition that actually compares people of their kind to each other, the game is balanced because you're not comparing two different entities. Trapper is bad, but the other trapper is as bad as the trapper, so no one cares. Everyone is happy. Good ending. Obviously, I'm joking. The game is not fair if it's balanced, but we can make some adjustments to make it fair in the competitive mode. What are the adjustments that we need to make? Well, here's the list. Some killers have really busted add-ons. We just need to nerf a couple of them, the really strong ones, like Tombstone Piece, so the survivors don't feel like they got shit on when they play against Myers or Spirit. And that's just player comfort. It's not really balanced because Myers players with Tombstone Piece would be compared to Myers players who would probably also run Tombstone Piece. What else would you run on Myers, right? Because we compare two killers to each other, we don't need to restrict any add-ons. Let players play whatever add-ons they want, whatever works better for them, whatever they feel more comfortable with playing. Next, all we know that survivors have some of the most busted items possible. To be fair and compare killers fairly, we need to make sure that survivors always have the consistent level of item strength in their hands. And the way to do that is to not allow survivors to equip any items at all, but instead, depending on the killer, give survivors items in the trial so that they spawn with them automatically. Let's say as a survivor group you matched against twins. You get 2 medkits, 1 toolbox, and 1 flashlight on your group. Do with them what you want. They can be yellow items, and they can be balanced around accordingly to what killer you are going against. If you're going against the trapper, you get the worst items possible. If you're going against the nurse, you get the most OP broken shit possible, so that nurse also feels fucking terrible to play, and no one should ever play her nurse. Please delete her from next. To make solo players viable in the competitive mode, you need to give them more tools to communicate to the other teammates, which include seeing their perk loadout before the match and having a chat inside the trial, so that while you hang on the hook, you can convey information or quickly ask about something. You can have a quick wheel developed for that. Next change that has to be implemented is disabling hook grabs. Hook grabs is a really busted and boring part of the game, which enables tunneling and camping in its finest. One survivor fucks up, the entire team will be paying for it. Survivors should be able to safely trade on hooks so that it discouraged killers from tunneling and camping. Instead, they can go for their win condition of hook states, because now you don't win when you get 3k, you win when you get more hook states than your average, because you climb up that ladder. So why would anyone play competitive mode, you may ask? Well, the first thing is that you can actually measure your skill, but there can also be insane, incredible rewards that you actually need to earn. And I would call them master marks. Let me explain the concept. Remember that percentage you wanted to get in? The percentage of the best players of a certain killer. Well, if you get in the top 50%, you get 1 master mark. Maybe it's a special skin on your weapon or a hook charm, 1 specific, on that specific killer. Then you get a second master mark when you reach top 20%. Then the third one when you reach top 5%. Then you can flex those charms in a public match when you just go and chill and play funny builds. We need something that we can actually earn, that we can invest time in earning and then be proud of ourselves for having it. One more thing that would encourage players to play competitively is the iridescent shards grind. You can give players iridescent shards for achieving certain thresholds of percentage of the best killers or the certain killer, and it doesn't have to be a big amount, but the community would still love it. People would play, farm iridescent shards, and buy cool skins on Spirit that are definitely TOS friendly.
But when you have a competitive mode, the queue times will be so bad. It will be unbalanced and unfun experience to wait for a game for 35 minutes, days.
Minutes, because the way these two modes can coexist is by reducing the blood point gain of the competitive mode. If you need to farm blood points, you can go and play chill, and guess what? When you play chill, you actually farm more blood points than when you tunnel and camp a person. So people would be encouraged to play fair and fun. They just earn blood points, they earn them more, they have all these different modificators and the offerings available to them. And in the competitive mode, you just go there and sweat. Another way to make queues not unbearable is to make competitive mode available only in the rush hours, in the hours where the average player count of DBD is high, so that everyone is able to find the game in whatever mode they feel like. And you shouldn't be worried that competitive players will go into casual mode and all of a sudden play ruthlessly, because now the casual mode win condition is to earn more blood points. You don't need to sweat in the casual mode. It doesn't make any sense to do so. So let me recap. I know you've been sitting here a long time listening to me blabbering, but after all, you must agree with at least something I said. So if you disagree with something, make sure to leave a comment. I'll read every single comment, and I hope that Behavior notices this video and actually understands that we as a community need something to compete for. Dear Behavior, DBD needs competitive mode if it wants to grow bigger and make players stay interested in it. The current state of high MMR matches can feel too frustrating on both sides because the win condition is too strict. The game needs to balance itself using statistics and floating win conditions. It can never be balanced in general just by the nature of the 4v1. And the last, mindset of chill players and mindset of the competitive players need to be separated into two different game modes, because when they clash, it creates really frustrating situations. At the end, I just want to say, here's the screenshot of the new song that I have coming up, and you guys gonna love it. I'll see you here. Peace.